Hello. Just gonna get this all set up. Hello, Facebook Live. Just gonna let this just all set up and hopefully you can all see me and you can all hear me. So I am in my little studio and I've got all my tools and equipment ready. So I'm just going to see if anybody's going to join us in the next minute or so. And then I'm going to run through all the tools and equipment that I recommend with dressmaking. So I've got everything laid out. It's quite warm in here. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're down the end of the garden and it's so nice. So the doors are wide open and the air's blowing in. So it's, what a nice day. So if you are here, say hello so I know who is watching and I can say hello back. And hopefully, so this is one of the first lives that I've done actually scheduled to do a Facebook Live. So it'd be really nice to kind of get these regular in the launch, in the kind of the run up to the launch of the book. So I'm hoping to do this every Friday up until when the book is out and the book launch, which is the 25th of June. But those of you who don't know, I'm also launching the book on the 16th of June on Sewing Street, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, it's not long until it's actually going to be in our hands. So you can see it just up there. So exciting. And I've just got printouts of the pages so I can talk through here. Oh, hi Helen. Hello, nice to see you. So glad you're watching. But I'm going to go through tools and equipment. So if any of you have got any questions during this time as well, then please feel free to jump in and ask questions. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing there. As you can tell, I'm catching up with this whole social media. I think the fact I had a baby in lockdown, everyone else went mad with this and it's taken me quite a while to catch up with all of this. But hopefully there's lots of you watching. So I'm going to start off now and I'm going to run through. So hopefully you'll all find this useful. So you'll be able to look back at this and hopefully give you some tips on what you actually need for dressmaking going forward, because your tools and equipment are absolutely vital for making your dressmaking journey a million times easier. You don't have to spend a fortune though. Even though some people feel you do, you can buy so many gadgets, so many bits and pieces, it's unbelievable. But what I'm going to go through is the actual basics that you need for dressmaking. And once you get these basics, you can run with it. I'm quite a traditional dressmaker, so I have quite traditional tools. I don't even use like fancy walking feet. I'm that basic. So hopefully this will show you that you don't have to spend a fortune. But with most things, it's worth considering what you buy and to make sure that it's going to last you as well. So it is always that thing of, you know, buy properly once rather than buying twice. So I'm going to run through. I have got, I'm going to run through my list. Now this is the tools and equipment that is actually listed in the book. So I will get the book down and just show you this little bit in the front. But as you can see, there's quite a lot that I need to cover in the book anyway. But this is the very first page of tools and equipment. Okay, so when I get my fancy setup next week, I'll be able to flick through an image of this. So this is what I'm referring to. This little page here, which is your tools, which is everything you need, my must-have list. The other list are your optional extras. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this so you understand what it all means. And so again, feel free, I'd love to see comments, so feel free to ask questions, comment about anything, tell me if there's something different you do or anything you use, and feel free to join in. So sewing machine, obviously that's quite a biggie, so I'm just going to talk very quickly about that. If you can just join a sewing group or go to your local sewing machine shop and just befriend them. Everything I advise people about sewing machines come from Clifford's in Swansea. Hello Fiona, oh nice to see you. So yes, Clifford's in Swansea are my local trusted sewing machine shop. I trust everything they say, I trust them implicitly, and all the information they pass on to me, I pass on to everybody else. You've got your good brands and you've got your not so good brands, which unfortunately means if you're buying cheap in supermarkets, they're not the same quality, they're not the same type of machine. Even though you might feel you're spending £150, £200 on a machine in said supermarket, it is not going to be the same quality as if you buy it directly from the brand. So that's just something to bear in mind. If you're ever unsure about sewing machines, just befriend your local sewing machine shop and you can't go wrong with that. If anyone ever wanted to send a question over if they're unsure, please feel free to do that as well. but my Janome sewing machine I bought when I was 15, and I forget how old I am now. I think I'm 41, 42, one of those. Hi Kaylee, nice to see you. Kaylee's in the book, it's very exciting. But my Janome sewing machine has lasted all of those years. So if anybody can do the maths, let me know. From 15 to 42, 30, 28, 20, that many years. So it has sewn everything I've ever made. It's sewn wedding dresses, it's sewn all the household products. Everything that you see in the book has been sewn using that machine. And so if you buy once and you buy well, and it wasn't hugely expensive, but it was just a good brand. So I won't go too much into that because I will discuss sewing machines a bit later on. But I'm going to go through the real basics. And this is literally my list of must-haves. All of this now as well is available on the website. So I've now updated a tools and equipment list, which is in the link below. And I will be doing some packages. So for those of you who are new to dressmaking who might need to look at, those basics, I will be doing essential packages and mixes of things as well. So feel free to look online. Tape measure, so simple. This tape measure this is a Moreplan one, but I've just ordered some Prim tape measures in. And what is useful about these, so I put it up close, you've got inches and you've got centimetres on the same side and on the other side. Now that I found really useful because some people work in centimetres, some in inches, a really basic thing. It's really handy to have it on both sides. That's my little tip for you. Okay, so that's a nice simple one to start off with. Now, paper scissors, it might sound silly, I really struggled to get these in, but I've always used Fiskars paper scissors. Now I will put a recommended link when I can find them, but I've struggled to find these online now. But the difference with these is they're really fine. So cutting paper patterns out is so much more accurate when you've got some really good quality paper scissors. So unfortunately I can't find them to get them online, but Fiskars paper scissors I find the most accurate for cutting out paper. It sounds silly, but if you get really clunky scissors, it just makes it so much more difficult. So that's a nice simple one. Click pencil. So when I'm dressmaking, I'll always have a little click pencil because you want to have a really, really sharp point. And what you don't want when you start drawing patterns is to be using a pencil with quite a blunt nib, because your lines become that little bit wider and you start to lose a few millimetres here and there. So your click pencil, just buy a pack of Bic pencils and you're good to go. Next thing, masking tape, brown paper tape, red pen, those are the simple things. Those are the kind of easy peasy. But the one I'd like to start, this is the biggie on the list, okay? This is a Pattern Master. So for those of you that have never seen one of these, it's a really fancy ruler. It's not a quilting ruler, so it isn't for quilting. Hi Carol. Ask questions at any point, any of you as well. Nice to see you all watching. But this is a Pattern Master. This is your dressmaking ruler, okay? So I don't really use any other rulers. I just use my Pattern Master. Now it's got centimetres. If I bring it in close here, it's quite hard to see against here, but you've got centimetres that run down here, and you've got all these markings that run across. You've also got really useful diagonal markings running down. But importantly with the Pattern Master is you've also got these curves that come around here. Okay, so it's quite hard to see because it's totally see-through. But when you, actually if you can see that, see you've got your centimetre there as well, okay, and your half centimetre markings. So if you're pattern cutting, hi Wendy, if you're pattern cutting, this is your tool for adding your seam allowances on. It's your tool for being able to draw an accurate armhole, for drawing an accurate neckline, for drawing collars, everything, for lining, for just joining your lines up with a nice gentle curve, your straight lines. This is what you need. And I have these online as well. This is basically, you have to have one of these if you're dressmaking. Don't worry about any other rulers. Just start with that. So I can just about see comments, so bear with me when I get a hang of this. I've got that, never sure how to use it. Now, if you've got any ideas for what you want, so thanks for that, Ben. If you've got any ideas for what you wanted me to show you, I will be doing lots of online things. I'll be getting some fancy cameras, hopefully for next week, so I can do some demonstrations whilst I'm talking to you as well, and you'll be able to see from up above. So if you'd like to have a little demo on the Pattern Master, then that can be something I can do very quickly next week and run through how that works. So that's quite a handy one to do. But it is literally buy it once. Again, buy it once and you've got it forever. Okay, so the next thing on my list, your pattern paper. Now my pattern paper is hidden behind me. which I've only got the bit left on a massive, massive roll now, so I can't really pull that one out. But the pattern paper is, you can either buy your plain pattern paper, and if you're buying that online, I think you do tend to just buy a couple of meters at a time. It's all folded up. I'll come back to your question in a sec, Boom. But yeah, your pattern paper is all kind of folded up. You can iron it out, but I sell the pattern paper by the roll, and it's 122 centimeters long. You can get it a bit longer as well, but it's super long. It's amazing for being able to just spread it out on a table and not have to have lots of bitty bits that you have to put together with masking tape. The other thing that I use with a pattern paper myself is dot and cross paper, and you'll see that featured in the book as well. Now the dot and cross paper on one side has dots and crosses, and they're just literally all in lines, and what that gives you is a grid to be able to line things up really, really accurately. But if you don't want to use dot and cross, you just turn it on the other side and use the plain side. But it's really useful for lining up grain lines and making sure that all your patterns sit the right way. So that is something that is really useful. If you order it, I'd fold it, you just iron it with a nice dry heat. So that's your other one. So Burns asked, it's the curves. Not sure how to use the curves. So if I do a little demo next week, I can show you how to use this. So maybe I can show you how to draft a neckline and show you how that works. So you can actually use these to your advantage, because obviously this curve isn't going to be the exact curve that you want. You've got all different kind of angles around here. So you tend to take a bit of time to get used to this, but once you do have your pattern master, it becomes like your third hand. It's really, really useful. I couldn't dressmake without it. So I will make a note of that, and I will do a little demo for that next time. Brilliant. Okay, dressmaking scissors. Now I can't find my dressmaking scissors because I'm transitioning between my big studio, this studio. Well, this is my temporary studio. The scissors I've always used, and this is an important one for you, the ones I've always used have been Fiskars. So we all know these orange handled scissors. Now I had two pairs that I had since a student, and they've always been amazing. And the most important thing as well is that tip, okay? Making sure that when you're cutting, say a notch, or you're cutting into somewhere quite accurate, to have a sharp tip is absolutely vital when dressmaking, because the last thing you want to do is cut into your fabric and just cut and just slice the whole thing. So always tip of your scissors. So if you get good quality dressmaking scissors, you should have a nice sharp tip. Now Fiskars were always amazing, and I had two pairs that lasted me the lifetime that still are amazing. But then apparently Fiskars, like other brands like Singer, aren't actually the brands that you think they were. So Fiskars isn't the same as it used to be. So I live by an airport, so you'll hear the plane going over as well. So the scissors that I bought in, I was recommended, I was actually given a pair to try out, and they're Horn scissors, and they are fantastic. They are really, really smooth to use. They're really, really sharp. The tips are really good. So I've just ordered in a load of 8-inch Horn scissors, which I personally would recommend as being really good dressmaking scissors. I'm going to try their embroidery scissors because I'm interested to see how good they are. They're a little bit expensive, but again, if they're really good and they've got a really sharp point, then it is worth buying once and not having to buy again. Because I think we've all got, you know, those lovely scissors which look like, is it swans? I can't remember what they are on them. But sometimes they look pretty, but they're not necessarily going to be particularly useful. So I will get back to you on the embroidery scissors. Now then, we all know what this is. Your unpicker. You all have one. However good a dressmaker you are, you will still need an unpicker. And that's how I've worded it in the book. Unfortunately, you still will need an unpicker. These are amazing. Something I learned recently, didn't realise, that actually when you do unpick and you go through this little bit here, there's a little red dot. And apparently if you rub that red dot over where the stitches were, it will help get rid of the hole for the actual row of stitching you've just unpicked. So useful little tip. So there's that, simple but easy. Now something again I'd like to talk a little bit more about is dressmaking pins. So good quality dressmaking pins. The ones I've ordered in are Prim. Okay, so these are very plain, they're very simple, and you could almost say they're very boring, okay? But that means they're a good quality pin. If you buy ones that have got pretty hearts on top or pretty diamonds on top, sometimes they tend to be much thicker than the normal pins. And then if you do sew over pins when you sew, you do run the risk of hitting those just much more than if you were to buy the slim stainless steel narrow pins. Now these again are online, but they're 30 millimeters in length, so 3 centimeters in length, 0.6 millimeters. So the 0.6 is key there because it's really, really thin. I do tend to use ones that are 34 mil long, and I find they're good being long, but I couldn't find those actually in print, so bear with me. But you can also get the ones with the glass head on, so at least then you've got good quality, long, narrow pins that you can grip, but you get less in a box. Similar price, less in a box. But that is massively important, because the worst thing is when you're pinning through paper and fabrics, if you can't get your pin through, or if you've got a blunt pin, then you're going to ruin your fabric and you rip your paper, and it just gets frustrating. So good tools will make your dressmaking journey just so much easier. Okay, so I hope you're all still with me. I've got a handful of things left on the list, so I hope that you're finding it interesting. Again, any questions, fire them over. Your iron, that's quite a simple one with your iron. There are, again, super duper fancy irons. I think the main thing is keeping your iron clean, but potentially if you can get a spare iron for your interfacing. I personally use a different iron when I'm ironing on interfacing, just because I find there can sometimes be a little bit of a sticky residue left, and especially because I make wedding dresses, I never want that to transfer over if you're going to then iron the front of a satin or silk wedding dress. So handy little tip, hopefully, have it just one of those small, smaller, cheaper irons. I suppose it's the one thing when I say you can buy a small, cheap iron, because irons are probably like anything, you can spend a fortune, get something really fancy, as long as it does the job, you're okay. Iron on 2, don't iron more than 2. You shouldn't ever really need to iron more than 2 dots unless you're ironing like a thick wool or a denim. So that's my limit. Okay, tailor's chalk is the next thing on my list. As a traditional dressmaker, I do have tailor's chalk, but obviously there are very different things on the market these days. So if you like the traditional, can't say it, triangular chunk of chalk, you do have to kind of sharpen those, but they are really, really good because it will come off easily with a bit of wet. Now, obviously the other options we've got these days, you've got pencils, you have to sharpen them, get your nice sharp nib. You've probably all seen the friction pen. Now, I wouldn't do this on bridal, but these are just amazing. I've done a YouTube video on this years ago and it's still doing well. These are fantastic for marking your darts, drawing your straight line on the inside of your garment. Iron the line off, removes the line, but you've got a nice sharp point that you can actually use. So it isn't something you'd usually recommend to use an actual pen that isn't dressmaking, but I think most people know about these now. They are amazing. Right, hand sewing needles, quite straightforward. I've got some packs online. I've just got a mixed pack. Can't really go wrong with those, but you want a nice, probably thin needle just to be able to get in on dressmaking on when, say, you're tied in the ends of, I don't know, facings or where you put your zip in and anything like that. That's quite straightforward. Interfacing is on my list. So this is the last one on my must-have list, okay? So there are 2 lots of interfacing, but that I use most of the time. One is a really thick, heavyweight one, but that's more for products. So that's more if you're making a storage box or like a zip-up bag or something. The one that I mainly use is the heavyweight. No, heavyweight. It was called heavyweight, but it's actually I'm going to show you the code. It's Vilene and it's F20. Okay, I call this a medium weight one. This is what I use for facings, for collars, for waistbands, because it's not too thick, but it's just enough to give your fabric some body, because sometimes if you go that little bit too thick, everything gets a little bit too rigid. So if you think of a shirt and you've got your collar and your cuffs, they're traditional, very, very thick. If that's the look you're going for, then you can go heavy. But actually I find this medium weight one is more than enough. And you'll see on the dress in the background, there it is underneath, if I come this way around. Underneath there is the facing, so that gives you the nice solid neckline that's not stretching, not moving, but isn't distorting the shape in any way. So this is your medium weight. If you are brave and you're working with silks, then I would go to the lightweight. There's one down from that, which I haven't put online yet, but I might do if there's a need for it. But this medium weight is what I recommend. So talking of medium weight, the other useful thing when you're dressmaking, especially if you do buy the book and you're going to start working through it, is you want your sampling fabric. So your calico. So again, I've got medium weight calico online. Now, when you do any kind of dressmaking, you want your samples to be a similar shape and a similar hang to the actual dress that you're looking to achieve, or any garment that you're making. So there's no point using a calico that is maybe like a bit rigid if you're making a soft, floaty, summery dress, or you don't use a really heavy calico if you're then going to gather around the waistline, because it's going to hang very, very differently. So try and bear that in mind. But everything I sampled in the book, and there'll be lots more photos coming through as I'm going to start posting a little bit more about the journey of the book. Medium weight calico, I sampled everything up in that because everything in the book was made in a cotton. So I hope that helps. Nice and simple. Just get a load of that. Just get a whole roll of it and it's brilliant. You've got lots of it. So the last couple of things, these are like literally another couple of points. So again, any other questions, fire them over so I can answer them in this time as well. I have no idea what time it is, so I'm just going to work my way through the list. But I've only got a couple of items left, and these are on the optional extras. So everything I've just talked about are on my must-have list, and those are things I think you should have in your kit, and that is everything you should have to make you a good dressmaker. Now the optional extras are your cutting mat and your rotary cutter. Now not everybody is used to using a rotary cutter. So I have got this one, which is Olfa, which again is on the website. The lovely thing about this one is you've actually got a dual safety blade. So if I pull this down, you can cut with one side, or cut with the other side, or cut with the whole thing down. So that gives you that little bit of an extra safety if you're going to be cutting on one side. Or the other normal rotary blades, rotary cutters, you just pull the whole thing down. So you pop that whole thing down and the whole blade is exposed. So that's the difference that you'll get with using one of these extra safety ones. And you should always put it back into safety mode before you do anything else. The other thing as well is you should just get all your weight on top of it. So when you're cutting, you shouldn't be cutting that angle. You should be pretty much getting your weight on top that way, and that means it'll be much easier to actually cut through your fabric. But obviously what you will need, I'm just going to move these little bits off here, if you are doing anything with a rotary cutter, please don't do it onto your table. I'm sure you all know this anyway, but this is your cutting mat. Now something useful again on this, now again these are Olfa, because I bought Olfa mats when I first set up, so again you're talking 15 plus years, because and I was using them before that, but I bought 5 A1 Olfa cutting mats. They have served me all of this time as well, so it's absolutely brilliant to use something that is going to last you. So if you buy cheaper ones in, not necessarily supermarkets, but I know you've got Hobbycraft and things, I have been told that they do lose their quality pretty quickly. So yes, Olfa are great, and this is a handy one because it actually folds. So you've got an A3 one that folds and allows you to carry that. So if you are attending craft sessions, then these are pretty handy to take with you, because you don't want to take one that's too big that's going to warp. So obviously you need that, and your blade and your scissors. I still use scissors though. Massively important that you have your scissors as well for getting into those sharp corners, but these are quite handy. So a little message from Carol. I've tried the website to get a ticket for your launch, unsuccessful. Yeah, if you email me, Carol, if you pop me a message over with your email address, I'll do it for you. I'm not sure if the website's having a couple of glitches, so if you ever have problems on the website, let me know and I will pop it over to the web designers. But they are free tickets to the book launch, so all I need is just your name, your email address and your phone number, mainly so that I can message everyone before the event and I've got an idea on numbers. It's absolutely free, so Carol, message me and I will sort that out for you, no problem at all. Thank you for messaging. I'd love to meet you. Make sure you come and say hello at the time as well. It's going to be a really, really, really lovely event. I can't wait. Okay, the other things on the list, there's only 5 5 things on here, okay? Overlocker, which is your serger, okay, so American for serger. A lot of people worry about an overlocker, and I think, do I need an overlocker if I'm dressmaking? Personally, I wouldn't be without my overlocker, but I have used it for a long time, and I am obviously a professional dressmaker, as in, you know, obviously I'm selling my trade as well. If you've not used an overlocker before, you can just zigzag your edges, and that's your kind of your home method of doing it. There are some settings on machines where you can get near to kind of a zigzag, but the beauty of the overlocker is there's a blade on it which will actually cut the edge of your fabric, and it will neaten it, and you've got 3 or 4 reels of cotton that are actually finishing that edge for you. If you're new to it and you want to have some help, take it to a sewing class. So take your overlocker with you, ask the tutor to help you, or warn them beforehand, because not every overlocker you can just get the hang of like a sewing machine. An overlocker sometimes needs a little bit more time to get the hang of how to thread them. So see if you can either attend an overlocker workshop, you can book, there's lots of online ones as well which are really good, and I keep meaning to get the links for them because I need to point people in that direction, because overlockers are fantastic once you've used them, just being able to thread them. But you could take them to someone to thread them if you're totally stuck. So don't let them put you off, but overlockers are a must once you've used them for the first time. They're amazing. Concealed zipper foot, that is something as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 things left. Concealed zipper foot, personally, is my absolute must. I would put it on the must-have list, to be honest. You've got, with most machines you buy, you will have a normal zip foot, and that will allow you to do a lap zip. So again, this is something I can do some demos with, some online lives as well. Your lap zip just looks a little bit more bulky, especially if you're on a dress. It's lovely for trousers, but even then can still add that little bit of bulk, sometimes where you don't want it, especially if it's on your tummy and your trousers, say, do up in the centre, or you've got a zip on the side. You don't really want to add bulk. So personally, I am a concealed zip fanatic. The book has got, I'm going to show you actually, in the book we have, the beauty of doing this book with Searchpress is Searchpress are absolutely amazing, hugely supportive, and they allowed me to put a ridiculous amount of photos in. I'm just going to show you this. So this in here now has got all about zips. You've got your lap zip, your concealed zip, but there's absolutely tons of photos, which I can't even turn the page. There's 3 pages just on your lap zip, and then you've got your concealed zip, and you've got another 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, 4 whole pages dedicated to your concealed zip with really detailed photos. Because one of my biggest bugbears is when you get a pattern or you know, in a book and it tells you just do this, but it misses out the key little details that you need to make it work really, really well. The first thing is having a concealed zipper foot. Second thing, good instructions. So hopefully that is something that you might all be able to master. And I am looking to do some little master classes as well. And I might be going to some of the NEC shows and the craft shows and doing some master classes at those. So again, watch this space. So let me know what you'd like to see. Walking foot is on the optional extras. Walking foot, I do own one, and I only actually bought one once I started demonstrating on what was sewing quarter, because I was doing the bag making. It's not something I tend to use on dressmaking, but if you're used to using a walking foot, I think it is quite useful to actually, you know, keep using it within dressmaking. My Janome machine allows me to reduce the pressure on the top of the foot. So there's a little dial, kind of like a tension dial, like a pressure dial, that allows the foot to just release a little bit so that your fabrics aren't going against each other like that. But if you haven't got that, I know brother machines don't always have them, then a walking foot is useful, but it can be quite clunky if you're just sewing a normal seam. So if you're used to it, go for it. But say it is, some people swear by them. Just seen Kaylee's comment, zips and buttonholes terrify me. Buttonholes, Kaylee, are so easy. I mean, zips are easy when you know how, but buttonholes, again, I can do a little live on it, do a little demo, hopefully when I've got all the equipment set up. Buttonholes are amazing. Actually, I have. I've done a buttonhole video on my website all those years ago. I'll see if I can fish it out and I'll pop it on the page so you can see. This is when I had someone here filming a proper fancy video all those years ago. So there are a few tips on there. I'll fish it out, Kaylee, send it over. But Kaylee, you live locally, you have to come to a workshop and I'll show you. Easy peasy. Zips, I think that is going to be a masterclass, so I will show you and walk you through that. Will be quite good. Okay, tracing wheel, last but one item. A tracing wheel, I haven't actually got my tracing wheel here because again, I'm in between moving all my equipment. A tracing wheel, I'm going to show you a picture of it actually, is something, there's a couple of ways of tracing off patterns. So I think that will be something I'll do in one of these Friday lives to show you how that works. But your tracing wheel is this, if I pull it up here, this little bit over here, so hopefully that will go into detail. Okay, so it's got little spikes on. You can just about see it there, hopefully. And what it is if you are tracing off patterns, personally, I prefer to put a bit of paper on top and trace over with my click pencil. Sometimes people like to put the pattern on top and they'll actually use a tracing wheel, which will go around and it will leave a run of holes, so then you can join the dots. So I will potentially demo that. If you fancy it, let me know. Okay, and last but not least, what was my last thing? I think it is, that's it, the sleeve ironing board. And the sleeve I'm going to talk about needles. Two more things, bear with me. Sleeve ironing board is really simple. It just, again, I don't know where it is. Totally lost everything. Sleeve ironing board is really useful for getting in. So it's a really tiny ironing board and it just allows you to get into the sleeves and to press the seams on sleeves. And again, a really useful thing to have. Now, I just want to give you two little tips before you go. Bobbins. Okay, your bobbins, if your machine came with a plastic bobbin when you bought it, keep with the exact same bobbin, whatever that is. Whether your machine came with a plastic bobbin, a metal bobbin, check the height and like the width of the bobbins, because it isn't a universal bobbin throughout all machines. If you've got the wrong bobbin in your machine, that will affect how your machine is working. And I might do a little bit more about machines a bit later on. So just check, if you're ever unsure, again, befriend your local sewing machine shop. Tell them what your machine is, take a photo of the machine, and then if you go in, they'll be able to tell you which bobbins you need. The other thing that I learned from Clifford's, who are amazing, sewing machine needles. This is my last absolute vital piece of equipment. Sewing machine needles, again, if you buy cheap, you could ruin your machine. So some of the cheaper needles can be ever so slightly longer and therefore will damage the inside of your machine. Then you're paying £50+ for a service. So your best thing is buy branded needles, 100%. I swear by Schmetz. There's all different types of Schmetz needles. I've just ordered in size 10, which I use on cottons, some kind of finer silks. Size 12, 100% cotton is brilliant. And size 16 for your denim. There's all different types. There's stretch, there's top stitch, there's twin needles, there's everything. But stick to your branded needles, because if you buy even just a little bit cheaper, sometimes they're pennies to make and they might cause you £50 worth of damage. Okay, so I hope that's useful. Now, a little fun thing to show you in the end. This is the last bit of equipment that I'm quite enjoying discovering, actually. I've always put my own dressmaking labels into my clothes. So I've got my own Helen Rhiannon dressmaking labels, obviously go into the bridal wear and have gone into clothes in the past. I am now finding the most awesome, you probably all found these before, but the most awesome labels. Look at these. Hopefully that will focus. Will it focus? Oh, they're on the website anyway. I don't know if it's focusing. These are fab. So these are just Becky Seamstress. I love the name. So if you're going to start making your own clothes, why not put in a really cool label? So obviously you can like personalise your ones. There was Cash's labels used to do that. These are, it says, it's what's on the inside that counts. Sewing is my superpower, made by me. And I can't remember the other ones on here, but there's I think 5 or 6 different designs. So again, those are on the website under tools and equipment, because I think that is a must-have for your clothing. So yes, so that is all of the kind of my information for tools and equipment. So if you've stuck with me till then, I hope you've picked up some useful tips. I hope you realise that you don't need to spend an absolute fortune on everything. It just, what I've mentioned is what you need. We've got most of those things. Most people have got rulers, tape measures, paper, scissors and masking tape. But the Pattern Master, it's knowing the right tools for your scissors, getting a good quality pair of scissors. It's knowing about the little tips and needles and having the right size. And also the one thing I didn't mention, Coats Moon Threads. Coats Moon Threads. Look how much thread is on there. You tend to use them on overlockers, but you can also sew with these and you'll have so much more thread, and they're pretty good quality as well. So cheaper, but good quality. If you buy Gutermann, they're amazing, but when you wind your bobbin, you don't have much left over. So if you are sewing things, you might want to just take it a bit further. Coats Moon Threads. But yes, thank you, Mandy. I hope you found it useful. So Mandy's joining me on my dressmaking course, which is in, which one are you doing, Mandy? It's the 7-week one or the intensive one? I can't remember. But there's 2 courses, well, there's 3 dressmaking courses. There is an intensive weekend, which is full. And there's a 7-week course if you're local to Swansea, then those are Friday evenings. There's 1 space left on that. And I've also got, if any of you fancy, because I'd fancy doing this if it were me, a luxury sewing 3-day weekend. So I'm running this workshop in, the 7-week one, Mandy. Lovely, you'll enjoy that one. Yes, I'm doing a luxury sewing course in Sian Doherty's farm called Ash Farm down in Pembrokeshire. Pembrokeshire is beautiful. Like, I love Gower, and Pembrokeshire is totally up there with Gower. It's just beautiful. And Ash Farm, Sian runs this incredible farm where she grows all her own food. She's got her own alpacas. She's a textile designer. So she actually, did I say grow your own? She didn't grow her own, well, she kind of did. She's got her own alpacas. But she actually uses the wool and goes through the whole process of using the alpaca's wool to create her products. And she's incredible. But also, she makes the most incredible food. She's just built the most amazing big studio on the farm as well. So I'm really excited to be doing a course in July, and there are 2 places left on that. But I can honestly tell you the food is worth going for alone, let alone 3 days of sewing retreat, running through the whole book. So if any of you are interested in those, let me know. But hopefully I haven't rambled on too long. Any feedback, let me know. If there's anything I haven't covered or any questions you've got, feel free to message me separately. But I hope that's been useful. Fingers crossed. I had thought Morgan might have interrupted because he's been picked up from school, but maybe he's still at the park or he's been barricaded away from you so he doesn't come in. But I'm going to go and see him now and yeah, sign off for Friday. But fingers crossed you've got something useful from it. Let me know what you'd like to see. Next week I'll do the same thing, 5 o'clock next week. So if you've got anything you're desperate to see or want to talk to me about, let me know and I shall see you next week. Fabulous. I'm going to sign out now, folks, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Bye.